Our research is primarily focused on understanding two subsets of immune cells in the liver, and these are called dendritic cells and macrophages. And we're trying to understand what cells are there and what their specific functions are, both in healthy people but also in disease states. And the main diseases that we're looking at are things like fatty liver disease, which is really a huge burden currently in the clinic due to the increased incidences of obesity in the Western world at the moment. And so one of the things that we try and do with these cells is to understand where in the liver they're localized, because if you know where they are, you can get some clue as to what they're doing. And so one thing that we're doing to look at this is to try and localize them using microscopy, where we use antibodies to stain the different cells so we can see where in the tissue they're located. So before we can do that, we first have to take some liver samples, and these are some livers that were taken out of mice that were fed a high-fat diet yesterday. So these are samples that have this fatty liver disease. And then what we need to do is just freeze them in a medium that allows them to freeze without too much damage over dry ice quite quickly. And then after that, we can go to the cryotome, where we cut very thin sections of the liver, and then we can start to do the staining and go to the microscopy to see what subsets of macrophages and dendritic cells are there and where they're located. Here we have an example of some of the microscopy staining that we can do in the liver. So this is looking at macrophages in the liver. And here we use two different markers. So one is shown in green and one in red, which are specific for one type of macrophage in the liver called Kupffer cells. And you can see in the healthy tissue, all of the cells co-express both of these markers. However, when we move to an inflamed tissue, and this is after paracetamol overdose, you can see that now you have two different subsets of macrophages in the liver. And what's important here, that the information that we get from the microscopy, is that they're really located at two different zones. So you have the normal Kupffer cells here, but you have all of these red cells here which do not have the green marker, which means that they're not Kupffer cells, but rather another subset of macrophages. And these are really located around the area of damage. And so we're trying now to understand exactly what these cells are doing compared to the resident Kupffer cells.